What's Higher Ed PodCon? Well, that's a great question. It's the first ever inaugural and first annual higher education podcasting conference put on by the EdUp Experience, EDU Alliance, and Higher Ed Pods. Join us in Chicago on July 12th, 2025, as we get together to talk about podcasting in all areas of higher education, including marketing, enrollment, student affairs and student services, teaching, learning, alumni engagement. How can you better get in front of the audience that you want to see through podcasts? That's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to have podcasters, producers, students, strategists from all over higher education getting together, sharing best practices, how you take a podcast to get in front of an audience and make an impact. Join us in Chicago, July 12th, 2025 for higheredpodcon.com. That's where you register. Higher Ed PodCon is the first of its kind event. We'll see you there. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to Ed Up on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is an under-the-weather, slightly Dr. Joe Salustio, but the show never stops here at the EdUp Experience as we're booked out every day, Monday through Friday, for 3 months at a time. Thanks to the amazing co-founder here, Elvin Freitas, who never gives me a break ever. Elvin, thank you. Everybody have to give you 2 reminders, as I have done in every episode that we've had as of late. Number 1, and most importantly, Higher Ed PodCon is taking place on July 12th, 2025 on the campus of the University of Illinois, Chicago. The EdUp Experience is leading and self-funding the first ever higher education podcasting conference. I say self-funding because, well, you got to improve a model before you can get sponsors, and we're willing to do that. We already have close to 75 registrations. We're pushing really hard to go over 100, but possibly 150, 200, and the first ever inaugural, hopefully annual, higher education podcasting conference. Now, why would we do that? Well, that's a good question. Thanks for asking. Because there's a lot of podcasters out there, podcasters for marketing, for enrollment, for teaching and learning, for alumni, for there's even student-run podcasts. And when you think, who's a higher ed podcaster? You think that, I don't know what persona comes in your head, but there's presidents that podcast. There's VPs that podcast. There's faculty that podcast. So we have a really diverse group of people coming to Higher Ed PodCon. Go to higheredpodcon.com for more information on our first ever podcasting conference in history. And it'll be a great success. Number 2, remember EdUp editorials, where we publish articles for our colleagues in higher education. You have something you want to write about? Anything you want to write about. Maybe it's a use case for your product. Maybe it's a great release of a program you're having at your university. Write up an article, send it to EdUp. We'll publish it. We push it out to our global audience. So get out your pen and paper or notebook or whatever the heck you write with these days, AI, I don't care. We want to know what's good in higher ed, and we're going to publish it and get you a link. Okay, that's that. Now I got to get my cough button ready. I've got a great guest with me today. She is leading a really impressive organization, and I did a little bit of research on what they do, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly what we need in the space. Let me get her on the mic right now. Ladies and gentlemen, she's Vanessa Roth Didick. She is CEO at ZeeMee. Vanessa, welcome to an EdUp Mic. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here and listening to all that self-promotion I have to do.
I'm so excited about it. We're hosting our first conference, ZCon, this year too, and I know all that goes into it, and I'm thrilled. I want to get out to Chicago and join
Where is ZCon?
It's going to be tacked on to NACAC, so it's in Columbus, Ohio, in September.
All right. Well, that's incredible. Well, since you brought it up, do you want to say anything about the conference, even before we get into what your business does?
It's just a chance to talk all things community, engagement, data, leveraging data better, and all the things that we do at ZeeMee to support students.
Let's go.
Well, since you brought it up, ZeeMee, assume we have somebody on that's listening that hasn't heard of ZeeMee before. Tell us what you do, who you serve, and how you serve them.
Sure. We are the #1 engagement platform for students as they're kind of going through that journey of discovering the college to go to. So we work with the enrollment offices and help them to recruit their students better. We help them build community for students as they're kind of going through that journey of discovery, finding the right school for them, then kind of going through the application process through summer as they're hitting orientation and getting their housing assignments, and then even as they land on campus. And we help them build connections so that they convert through that enrollment funnel at higher rates. So the students in ZeeMee convert at twice the rate through the application stage. They melt actually at half the rate, and they yield at 4 times the rate. And all of that is sort of powered by this massive data engine that we have. We've been building for a number of years.
All right. So go back to the beginning. When you say engagement platform, line out for me exactly what that means in layman's terms, as somebody that's going, what is that exactly? Is it a technology? It is a community? What is it exactly?
From the student's perspective, it's a social app they use every day. They're in the app 13 times a day. We hit 11 in the App Store, competing with all of the main social networking apps that you have heard about. So we're up there with TikTok and Instagram and all of the others. And probably one that if you're not going through the recruiting process or you don't work in higher ed, you haven't really heard of. You just kind of scroll past it and you're like, oh, not for me. But from a student perspective, it's something they're using all day, every day, and coming in to meet their peers and friends. So they come in to chat. They can see content from colleges in their feed. They can roommate match and like take a fun little quiz and find roommates. They can do this like cool friend finding thing that's kind of draws from almost like dating apps. You like put in some parameters. Here's who I am. Here's who I'm looking for, to be friends with. And we kind of spit back here some great friends for you. And so from the student's perspective, they're just trying to make the friendships that are going to help them to be successful in their future, right? Like when they want to know who they're going to eat dinner with, but on the first night when they get to campus, they want to know that they're going to be making those lifelong friends that they're going to be able to have in their wedding party later on. So that's what they're looking for and trying to figure out what's the right fit school for them kind of as they go through that journey. And then from the college's perspective, they're trying to help that, facilitate that process, and also get to know those students better so they can hyper-personalize the experience for the students, make sure they're converting, make sure they're sticking, and that they're going to, graduate and be successful.
Epic.
Social media is kind of a thing right now, right? I mean, we all use it. And you think about it from a prospective student, right? Because that's who's in there, a prospective student. Universities are dying for prospective students.
They are.
How can I, as a university, show a student more than what tour that they go on for 1 hour during the summertime? How can I make them feel like they belong at my university, and not just show them, the brick and the this and then that's, but how other students might be thinking about experiencing my university becomes social proof, doesn't it? And it's social proof that sells more than marketing. Right. It is the most powerful form of marketing right now.
Absolutely, especially with the younger generation, because they are pretty distrusting of most things that look too formulaic. They think everything has been now crafted by AI. There's not a lot of transparency around, are you talking to a real person or not? And so I think they're really looking for authenticity, and that's what that peer voice gives them. Like that's the best advocate, is a school getting those evangelists in there, the students who already love the school, helping the students kind of find each other, convert each other, they trust each other, and that it's not rocket science. We did a very good job of building an app that works, but like honestly, it's just the relationships between the students that really pulls them kind of through that funnel and helps them to find success.
Do they stay in the app once they find their school, or they cycle out? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, they do. They stay kind of through that first year, and then they kind of fall out after that. But soon we will actually be supporting them all the way through and continuing to kind of cradle to grave support them as
right, 'cause
earlier and later.
Well, because I'm thinking about it from a retention standpoint, right? Like as you start to move that app through the later years, how does community is the most powerful form of retention, right? When peer pressure, for lack of a better way to say it, is, don't drop out. We all love you as a person, and, don't leave. That's a really important part of retention. So, and there's really two ways, not two, there's a third, but it's from a student perspective, there's tuition revenue, which you're going to get from the prospective student. And then there's continuous tuition revenue, which is what you get from your retained students. So it makes sense that you would expand
And
that out.
happy students give back, right? So
Yeah.
we're like the whole journey is on our radar and what we want to support, because we actually have done a number of case studies to show that students who are in ZeeMee, they retain at significantly higher rates. They graduate at significantly higher rates. And those are happy, successful folks who go on and are able to contribute back to the institution. We've been around a while, so we've been able to really hone and kind of develop some even prediction models that are 90% accurate at predicting who's going to deposit and commit to a school before they even apply.
Wait a minute.
I know.
Are you kidding me?
90%?
Yeah,
That's amazing.
It's crazy. And we've got new models coming out soon that are predicting the full stage. So who's likely to apply, who's likely to commit, who's going to melt, who's going to yield, who's going to retain. And my grand vision with this is before they even apply, who's going to give back. Because it's all data.
The application of this isn't just recruitment, it's financial forecasting almost in a way, if you think about it, right?
Well, and it's future proofing, I think, as well, right? If you have some intel on these students and you're serving them well up front, and you know who they are up front, you know who your sort of best applicants are, and then you're nurturing those commits. And if they have those support networks in place to kind of help them when times get hard, everybody wins in the ecosystem, and the school is able to kind of future proof against all of that attrition that we're seeing, across campuses. And retention is everything these days with the enrollment cliff and with students kind of falling out of the top of the funnel.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
You have been on a journey with ZeeMee. We had some time to spend together before the podcast, and I got to learn about your time coming in. It wasn't always rainbows and roses and ice cream for you, especially starting out. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey? Because being an entrepreneur these days is not easy. There are a lot of different companies out there. You have a lot of confluence of factors and artificial intelligence, all these things. What's it been like for you, and how's the trajectory been for the company over time?
Yeah, it's been great. But when I first joined, so I joined in 2018, and the company was struggling. They had it was an amazing team with an amazing vision, but it wasn't really gaining traction. And the students in the app were sort of trying to use, there was a prior product, and they were trying to use it actually to connect with each other, but it was sort of clunky, and they were kind of hacking their way into that. And the company had kind of spent all the money that they had raised. And when the board reached out to me, I looked at the financials and I was like, oh no. This company has like 3 months of runway. And so I came in and we extended it to about 6 months and pivoted and really saw that there was a real product opportunity to, the students were trying to build this community and get to know each other. And the colleges were desperate for better community because Facebook was falling off and, nobody uses that anymore. And so they were trying to do this too. So we just kind of paved that path, painted the vision for the existing investors. I went out and raised a little bit on some early traction that we were seeing. And then we just kind of went all in on community and built from there. And that was 7 years ago. And we have grown significantly, we'll say. We're
higher ed as a industry is not going it's not going perfect for institutions right now. Many are seeing enrollment decline, looking for alternative ways to generate revenue. Yeah. You use the word pivot. You came in and you pivoted, and you use it in the sentence so seamlessly, but it's not that easy.
No.
When you came in as a leader and you have 3 months of runway, like, what did you have to do? Was it product? Was it people? Was it process? Was it a combination? Give us the leadership perspective a little bit.
All of the above, I would say. So I have a product background. I've been building product in Silicon Valley for a long time. And so I think I saw the product potential, and the product wasn't there. It was, honestly, you'd open the app and it would crash. One of our first customers, we had an Android app that was almost not functional. And so we literally bought the staff iPhones because I was like, I can't solve this problem today. But I need you to continue to use this. So we bought them iPhones because the iPhone app was a little bit stronger. So we really focused on the product. I also saw the data potential, and I think that was part of the vision too, was there's so much that you can know about a person when you have them in community. You get to really understand who they are. And I think there's 10,000 products out there that say that they help you hyper personalize for the sort of student experience, hyper personalize your communications, all of those things. And they don't do any of that because they don't actually know. They know that you're from Texas, or they know you like field hockey, but they know that you want to be but they don't know that you actually wanted to be an astronaut today, but last week you wanted to be a psych major because you're 17 and you change those things constantly. And so I was like, there's so much potential here. And I'd been working in ed tech for a long time and working with students for a long time. And I was like, gosh, if we could nail this, there's a lot here. So from a leadership perspective, had to come in and cut costs right away. So unfortunately, that's one of the hardest things to do because that's people costs are the most expensive costs at a company.
Always.
And so that was a tough one. We had to kind of break down and build back up our product and engineering teams to become a really strong product and dev team, and then pull back on sales. So we had to pull way back on sales because if you don't have a great product, why go out?
Which is always hard to do when you're trying to fix the company, right?
Right. And your investors are like, please don't do that. Like, we want you to sell. But I was like, no, we're not going to sell something that's not good. So we're going to pull back on sales. We're going to pull back on the team. We're going to figure out how to build a really good product, and then people will come. And they did. And we built a really stellar product that works, it's very hard to build a community product for students. There've been, knock on literally all the wood. I'm so grateful that we figured it out. But there are so many companies that try to build community for students, and it comes out like clunky Frankenstein ed tech, and the students don't use it. And if they're not there, none of the benefit of building community can happen. And so we built this great product that students use and they engage with at these levels that are competitive with all the top apps. We hit the same KPIs just on a smaller scale than all the big apps out there. And that's the secret, is that we built it for the students. And when they come, then it gives value to the colleges. And so then they came. And so it kind of all everybody wins in our ecosystem.
Tell them like it is.
You said something that resonates with me as somebody who's worked in enrollment and marketing for 23 years before I sidestepped to ed tech. Getting a community built for students was always on a list. Getting the students to adopt some kind of technology was always, and every vendor I would talk to would go, oh yeah, we'll get all the students in there. You have to market it on your university. They'll get in there. And I would say, well, I don't want to have to market it. I want there to be some level of organic, this group of students is doing it, and they tell this, they invite them through the app, and all of a sudden, how did you get students in there? I mean, that's a big secret. It's not easy to do.
Yeah, again, we built a really good product. And so we worked to invite in early days and invite students in in partnership with our early college partners. And then the word just spread. And so we're on, all over Reddit. People are saying, how do you find roommates? How do you do this? And students are helping each other find it. If we're top in the App Store, if you're searching for college friends or college roommates or anything like that, ZeeMee pops up. And not because we don't pay for any of that. We actually don't pay for any marketing to students, which is mind blowing that we're this far in and generating the revenue we are and have as many college partners as we have. And we still are not marketing technically to students.
This is lunacy.
Yeah, I know.
I love it. I love that you're not marketing. That is marketing. The fact that that a student uses it and likes it and tells somebody else about it is the best marketing that you could ever have, right?
Well, we kind of practice our own model. This is what ZeeMee does for colleges, right? For colleges, the students in ZeeMee are sharing the good news about the schools they like. And when the colleges are nurturing those communities and taking care of those students and listening to the data that we're giving back to them so that they can support the students better, then those students go out and they tell other students about the school. And then we don't charge for lead gen. We're not a search tool, but we're driving tons of traffic to our college partners just because we're practicing what we preach, basically.
So take me through this. If I'm a VP of enrollment, I'm thinking about creating community. I've understand the product. We've had this product discussion. So now I have a student who's potentially interested in my school who signs up for ZeeMee. I can send them messaging. Do they opt into messaging from my school? Is it automatic? And how many am I competing with all other universities for this student? And so I have to be really stinking good at my marketing, right? Because it's a public app. I'm making this up as I go along. There's some assumptions in here. My messaging has to be super good. Do I get exclusivity somehow? Tell me how that works.
Yeah. So there is all of those things are sort of true. So the students who come into ZeeMee can follow all the schools that they're interested in getting to know. So we're not a white labeled app. Students do not want to download one app per school. They want to come in and engage with ZeeMee and get to know the schools kind of through that process. So yes, schools are kind of competing for attention with the other schools. However, in ZeeMee, students join with intentionality. I say it's like social with a purpose, right? Like they have a job to do. They're here for a reason. The conversations are elevated. They're still having fun and getting to know each other, but they're not, being trolls or anything like that. We just don't see that. And I think it's just because of the nature of our space in students' lives. And then we do have tools that schools can use to engage those students further, to make their communities richer. We have an AI games tool that will just automatically run these insanely fun games for students that are like get them to support each other and chat and be funny and like just get to know each other and build those bonds, which is really fun. We have other really fun tools that are like allow schools to bulk message or to get in front of students who are following competitor institutions. Mm-hmm. But you did ask, if you are a partner of ZeeMee, you're excluded from that. So we do kind of protect and lock down our partner colleges and don't let them poach from each other.
Why wouldn't I just think about the model. Why wouldn't I have ZeeMee? Why wouldn't I be partaking in this business model? I need students. I know students will go to school where other students are going to school. I know there's I did it too. I mean, when I went to my undergrad, I had a D2 soccer scholarship, like 75% ride. It was far away. Somehow a couple of high school friends convinced me to go to a school that I ended up transferring out of, but I went because of the friends and not because of anything. I mean, maybe the male to female.
That's how powerful friends are. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the power of influence. There's no downside. Are schools just adverse to bring in new tech? What do you see?
Higher Ed PodCon is coming. Go to higheredpodcon.com. That's higheredpodcon.com to learn more.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a bit of a groundswell of people turning towards this model. So I feel like we've crossed. In the early days, we sort of had to educate the market of like, why would you pay for this when you could have your intern build a little Instagram class of group, or you could have
those things never work, by the way.
No, and let's imagine that students were still on Facebook, but like at the time you could have a Facebook group or something like that. So in the early days,
by the way, everybody who still has Facebook and is logging on right now, you know who you are.
Hey, I still have Facebook. I'm an old lady. I still have Facebook, but
I just want to call out to the audience. You're not alone.
I am the exact reason they don't want to be there, right?
But your student who's coming into your institution is not on Facebook.
Not on Facebook. Like grandma is on Facebook, and
universities will spend a lot of marketing money on Facebook. They still go lead gen on Facebook a lot of money.
True. With Meta in general. I mean, I think there's a lot of attention on Instagram, and it's like this is the most crowded space you could be. And the last thing that students want to do on Instagram is think about a college. There's just so much other stuff to do there. And so I think that's why ZeeMee's been really successful. So you asked, why would somebody not adopt it? I do think that they're sort of shifting. I think for some people, it's like, oh, I just don't want one more thing to manage. That could be true. But then when we show, so ZeeMee also sits on the biggest set of behavioral data in all of higher ed. We've been
collecting. Yeah, I haven't even talked about the data yet.
Yeah, we've been collecting data on students for 10 years. So there is so much we know, and we know how the students' behavior today predicts their actions tomorrow. And we can serve up to our schools all of this insight that helps them to support their audience better and to recruit their audience better and to listen to the signals of what people are talking about and what people care about and what are they afraid of. And that's on like in a scaled manner and on a personal manner. So you could pull up a profile of an individual person and say, I'm about, to call Joe today. What should we talk about? What's my next best action with Joe today? What's going to help me help him feel supported? And that's where I think ZeeMee is like just magic. Like it's just, that's where the magic happens. And so I think when people really understand that and see what's possible there, it's, I don't understand how people, you still say no, but obviously I drink the Kool-Aid every day.
Well, you should.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. That's what I like to say. That's a good way of saying, of course. I mean, I need data. If I'm going to profile a class, if I'm going to craft a class, if I'm going to use the data of my incoming class to help the marketing and messaging of my next class, I have to have that data. Higher ed doesn't typically have that data. And I say that from direct experience with colleagues and myself, where you go, we have some data, but predictive analytics and AI generated data around personas and who and what supported by these characteristics is not widely available in higher ed, right? I mean, so then I can guarantee you, I bet there's somebody you presented data to that went, holy, I can't believe that you can have this level of granularity.
I mean, that is daily. And I've been doing a lot of the on-campus meetings lately and stuff and showing a lot of our new stuff that's coming out. And I mean, just that people are floored. Like there is nobody else. Yeah, there's nobody else who can do this, who can tell you these things. And again, it's good for the students because they want relevant communication. They want things that are timely. They want to feel like you know who they are. They want to feel like you care to get to know them. So it really does support everybody. I kind of describe it because my brain works in analogies. To me, it feels like the student journey is like this long, dark hallway. And the students like walking down this hallway and the college is trying to see them and try to understand who they are. And so colleges will go and they'll buy products from all these different vendors, put this on my website or fill out this form, or let's buy, your contact info from, you took the SAT. And so they're like buying like handfuls of nightlights and they're going along the hallway and they're trying to put these nightlights along the hallway. And the student walks through and they're like, you searched for football. That's cool. You want to join our like club team. And I see you for a second. Like, I know who you are. Like, that's awesome. And then the student keeps walking and that nightlight's behind them. And it's now the moment it was surfaced, it's historical data already. And it's like, or this is your zip code. So you're statistically more likely to behave this way. Or, your buying sort of persona is this. And so but the student's still moving. And again, like they were a history major last week and a astronaut next week. And these things keep changing and the college has no visibility in the in-between, in the dark periods. And I feel like ZeeMee comes along and we just turn the lights on in the hallway. And we're like, let's just map the whole journey, the whole way.
Excuse me, I just wrote an article that you probably didn't read, but I'll tell you what it's about. It's called the skip intro generation, right? And I say, like, if you look at...
I love that. That's, yes. Okay, right. I will...
All right, so if you go to Netflix, this is the premise. You go to Netflix, you don't watch the intro. You might watch it the first time, but then the button's there, and every one of us hits skip intro because we are so impatient as humans. You just go, I've seen it already. I don't need to see it again. I can save that minute and have more time to watch my favorite show.
Yes. My tiny kids who could not read would say, skip intro when shows come on. Like, because they know they can't even read. Yeah.
Right. And then I use the Uber example, right? And I call it the rideshare refresh. And you know this because you travel, you go and you're at the airport and you go to get your Uber and it says 12 minutes. You don't go, oh, wow, that's a reasonable time period. I'll sit here and wait the 12 minutes. You go, this is ridiculous. I go back out, I re-hit my destination, it goes down to 7 minutes. No, that's too long. Go back out, come back in. Unless it's like under 5, I'll actually spend 12 minutes trying to get it down to 5 minutes, right? So I could have just waited because we want command and we want control. And today's consumers expect this level of information to be when they want it. Not when we as the school, as higher ed, wants to deliver it. When Amazon's the same way, right? If your package comes in a week, you say, no, thanks. It better be here tomorrow. ZeeMee provides, what I hear you saying is ZeeMee provides the skip intro generation, the on-demand information when they're ready to have it.
For sure. And when you think about even these young recruiters, right? The young recruiters who are trying to figure out, like they're fresh out of school. Maybe this is their first job. They don't have the art of recruiting. They don't have the science of recruiting. They probably didn't study data. They have a lot of trouble separating signals from noise. They're trying to figure out, but they're like all heart and hustle and enthusiasm. And they just want to do their job so well. And so, but they just don't always know where to point their attention. Or if I'm about to call this person, what am I supposed to say? Because Gen Z doesn't even like getting on the phone at all.
Yeah, they're going to answer it.
Yeah, like they're not going to answer it. And the counselor probably doesn't want to make the calls because they're also of the same generation that is, it's challenging to figure out, like, how do you talk to a real person on the phone?
Exactly.
Nobody does it. And so we are empowering them with all the information. It's like about the student. Here's what to talk about. Here's what they care about. Here's what they're chatting about. Like, here's how to help them. And it kind of points everybody in the right direction and gives them, like, forget the prelude, like just get to the meat of it and help support everybody.
There's also an on-demand, I'm assuming this, but if I'm a prospective student, I'm looking at 4 schools and my friend sitting next to me says, you should actually look at so-and-so. Could I opt into those communications right away from that school or look that school up and see immediately? So the reason I bring that up is because you think about who we're talking about. If you don't have that level of information in your hands on the phone, right? We're talking about getting everything on your phone, which, by the way, 40 and 50 somethings, we also expect. If it's not on my phone, forget about it. And I have my forget about it button, but I'm going to say, forget about it. I'm not going to, it needs to be in my phone. Those upcoming adults, those soon to be adults are on their phones.
Yes.
So if I'm interested in this 5th school and I have to wait till I get home and access it on the internet and then look at it, or if I even have to search on my phone, I don't want to go searching. I want it brought to me. So as soon as I could opt in, that school becomes an option immediately based on the user preference versus that person having to go search it out. I mean, just it's
and they both know about each other instantly. So as soon as student follows that school because they see their friends. So we also have in ZeeMee, we have what we call social ZeeMees, which live sort of outside. It's like a social experience outside of individual colleges. And so students can connect on literally any topic you can think of, they connect on. And they're active in there. That's a constant motion machine. Like they are in there any hour of the day, chatting with each other, getting to know each other. So if I learn about a school, you and I are totally clicking in one of these social ZeeMees. I find out you're applying to this school. I now go follow that school instantly. I'm in that community. I've opted in to their communication. I start receiving communication from them in ZeeMee right away. And I get added to the CRM. So I'm also now part of their comp plan. I am fully integrated into their whole recruiting strategy.
I like that.
You also solve a big problem, which is roommates. I do want to talk about this one, being able to search and find a roommate that's compatible. Boy, oh boy, especially in a land where I'm not going to say that your forming adults have less social skills, but sometimes they expect they're not having as many conversations on the phone, or maybe they're not going to school with their friends. So finding a roommate is a pretty like a mind share. You got to find somebody you can live with. I will tell you, I wasn't going to bring this up. I maybe think about it, but in my freshman year at my university, I was paired with somebody. I remember trying to get a friend who was a roommate. It didn't happen. Who, let's just say, if he was lactose intolerant, he decided he was going to drink milk every day. So I'd have other friends come over to the room, and they'd be like, "Dude, we're not hanging out in your room. There's no way. We got to get out of here, man. So I was like, gosh, this is a horrible. Now I've got this horrible roommate. Like I'm getting this reputation that my room smells. I'm like, it ain't me. Then of course, anytime somebody comes over and you go, it's not me. They're like, oh yeah, right. You know, that's a tough experience. So finding a roommate and somebody you're compatible with in advance makes a lot of sense.
It does. It's everything, because also it's, that student who's paired with the wrong roommate is way more likely not to stick around.
Yeah, they're going to drop out and feel.
They're going to drop out of the whole school. They're not going to associate it with that one person. They're going to associate it with the entire school, and they might not retain. And so getting the right roommate early is super important. And so it's one of our favorite features from students, and so they take.
It's got to take a lot of anxiety out of people's. Just make them much more comfortable walking into a situation as a freshman, stepping onto some of these campuses, not knowing where to go, how to. But if you already know somebody that you've met through an app in advance, and you're going to live with them, or people that are across campus that you already know, and you meet up on night one, you have coming out of my university, we used to say to people at orientation, find your people. Because if you find your people, you're going to be much more likely to retain. We didn't say that part, but we said find your people because you're going to have a better experience. But if I can find my people before I go, boy, I'm going to stick around.
Well, 89% of students now expect to find their people before they get to campus.
That's interesting.
This generation is more anxious than any generation prior. And who hasn't read The Anxious Generation and all of that at this point. But their social anxiety is at all-time high. And so if we can help to reduce that anxiety and help them confidently step on campus, then is one less thing to worry about. There's a lot of new things to worry about. But if you can at least have a strong social network before you get to campus and have that sorted, the worst of the worst, then the hardest of the hard, I think, the rest of it will fall into place. You'll figure out the rest of it.
100%.
So I love this conversation because I think that it is a product like ZeeMee that helps you change the game that higher ed we need. We need to change the game in higher ed. The student is evolving. That was the point of the article of the Skip Intro generation, is that the student continually evolves, whether we're having trouble as an institution or not. Whether we decide to evolve or not, the student is evolving around us. So either we could choose to evolve or we're going to eventually become obsolete. This is an evolution of experience. So talk to us about what comes next. What do you see for the future of the company, and where are you going?
Big dreams, big vision.
We only like big dreams around here at the Ed Up Experience podcast.
Big dreams. I think we figured out how to support students really well, and we want to just keep doing that longer and longer and longer. So we are getting requests from many of our partners to continue to kind of grow community for the students and help them all the way through to graduation, continue to gather those insights on the students so that schools can kind of point their attention to the students who need that attention most, and kind of continue to build those networks. So we're actively building that. I think if you talk to me in a year, we'll significantly different presence on campus. We have some other really exciting new products coming out this year that are, I think, going to change the game for the admissions teams and just help them leverage all the data that we have in entirely new ways that are going to be really exciting. So it's a lot that we want to do. We want to just keep getting bigger and bigger and supporting students, and it's good work. Every day I get to wake up and do good work. And so as long as we wake up and we say we're doing good work, we're going to keep growing and keep building.
And you must get good feedback coming from people that are using the app going, oh my gosh, I have this or I have that. Is there anything you can point to that has happened recently where somebody brought up some use case or some magic that happened in the app that saved students or created a group or something that stood out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I was on with a team just this morning who is unfortunately way down in apps. Not quite sure why, but they are way down, or in commits, and the deposits, they're like 200 students down. This is huge and devastating.
Yikes.
And
Yeah, I mean, that's millions of dollars in Title IV, probably.
it's insane. And we are able, within minutes, we got off the call and we are able to help them find all the students who need them today. And we're sending them those lists, and we use the signals from our app. Who is the student who's told us that they're going to that school, but we know from the data they didn't actually commit yet? Call those students. If you call nobody today, call those students. How about the ones who are active in the community today? They're super active still in that community. It's after May 1. They're very, very busy. We gave them a high index on that 90% likely to deposit score, but they didn't deposit. Call those students, right? Like, so we have all of these cuts and segments of the data where we can solve real problems. And so we gave a list today of 50 students that we pulled in minutes of like, these are your hot targets. Go reach out to these students. And tomorrow they'll have a new list. And the next day they'll have a new list. And we will help them get back up to the number that they need to hit. And
You just made the list!
No, I get chills thinking about it. It's like so great. It's such
I love
good
it. And schools, I mean, you know what? To have that when you're down, anybody that knows the feeling of being down deposits, which is ultimately the biggest indicator that a student's going to start, which we rely on for forecasting, it's like the most demotivating thing ever because it feels impossible to catch up.
And we can tell you it doesn't stop there. I mean, we are able to show you who's a melt risk, right? Like who might not stick around because of their activity in ZeeMee. Like we adjust those prediction scores based on how students are behaving with all of the schools in the community. We can tell you, like suddenly they're paying attention. This student is suddenly still involved in another community. They've deposited with you, but they're still engaging with this other community and they're making friends and they're doing stuff in that community and they're spending more time over there. Go pull that. Pull them back. Yeah, like do something. So I think that stuff is like gets, when you kind of combine the data and the intel with this just like beautiful community from the student's perspective of just like, this is solving a real problem in my life of wanting to know that I'm going to be okay in my future and that I'm going to be successful. We're able to solve that for them. And we're able to help schools kind of know students better and serve students better. It's like, again,
that example you just gave too, like resonates with me because a student would deposit and we're like, okay, we're just going to start them on a regular communication schedule now because we've gotten them. But to know that they're going to continue to engage, and then we would do the same thing if for students that deposited somewhere else, we're like, let's just call them in a month and see where they are. But to know that that student is engaging in another community it's preventative, right? Or proactively preventing them from going somewhere else, which is what predictive analytics is sort of all about, is working proactively.
And it's what that student deserves. Like they deposited with this school for a reason. And so there was a moment of high affinity with that school. And if some of that has fallen off, they deserve to have the school kind of hit them with something meaningful, hit them at the right time with communication or, outreach or love or whatever it is that helps bring that student back into the fold. Like they obviously are drifting for a reason.
What else do you want to say about ZeeMee that you think our audience should know? Anything on your mind? Anything that you feel you want to say?
I think the only other thing maybe that is fun and good to mention is how safe the ZeeMee community is. I think that's the other thing when you say, like, why wouldn't somebody use ZeeMee? Why would they, maybe they should go here or there or the other. And I think we've built, like, we were using AI long before other people were, in just behind the scenes, under the hood ways of keeping people safe and protecting people. And it's more dangerous than it's ever been online. And a lot of these companies don't care. And they don't do anything to, reduce the toxic behavior or to protect students from toxic algorithms or to protect students from toxic people. And so I think we do all of those things too. So schools are able to know that if they invite these young people into the community, they are safe. We are running that AI on literally everything, even the metadata on the profiles to identify, if there's something going on there, on the content they share, on literally everything. And the students appreciate it. Like they feel safer in ZeeMee. And so I think that's another piece of our special sauce.
Safety first, right? Parents are going to care about that, boy. Where do we go to get a hold of you or find out more information about ZeeMee? You've gotten me interested. Where do I go?
ZeeMee, you can learn more about us at ZeeMee.com or partners.ZeeMee.com. And then I'm on LinkedIn, Vanessa Didick, and you can reach me at Vanessa@ZeeMee.com because I love it. Just any questions or follow up or anything. I would love to hear from you.
Nothing better than an accessible CEO, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna outro you in the proper way, Vanessa. Thank you for this amazing conversation. I could talk about this stuff all day, as you could tell, because I get into it and so many memories of how hard admissions and enrollment is and how we can make it easier on ourselves if we have the right partners, because you can't do it alone. Ladies and gentlemen, she is the one. She is the only. She is Vanessa Didick. She is CEO at ZeeMee. Vanessa, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. That went by so fast. It was so fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just upped.
Did you buy your tickets yet? Higher Education's first podcast conference is coming July 12th. Go to higheredpodcon.com, higheredpodcon.com. Get your tickets.